Hello everyone. Next our topic is mechanism of lubrication. In last class we discussed about what are lubricants and what is lubrication. Lubricants are nothing but the substances which reduces the frictional resistant force acting in between two moving or sliding or rolling parts of the machinery. Whenever two metallic parts are rolling on each other or moving on each other or sliding on each other, there is a production of resistant force, frictional resistant force. To reduce that frictional resistant force, we can use one substance. That substance is called as lubricant. What is lubricant also we discussed in last class. That is nothing but the process of applying lubricants in between two metallic parts to reduce the friction. That is called as lubrication. Next, our most important topic for external examination, R22 engineering chemistry external theory examination. Most important repeated 10 marks question or long answer question is mechanism of lubrication. How many types of lubricants are there? That means how many types of lubrication is there means lubrication is three types. First lubrication is thick film or fluid film lubrication or hydrodynamic lubrication. For thick film lubrication, how many other names are there? Two other names are there. First one is thick film or fluid film lubrication or hydrodynamic lubrication. Second type of lubrication is thin film lubrication. Other name of thin film lubrication is boundary lubrication. Next, third one is extreme pressure lubrication. So, how many types of mechanisms are there for lubrication? Three types. What are the three types? First one is thick film lubrication. Second one is thin film lubrication. Third one is extreme pressure lubrication. The other names of thick film lubrication is fluid film lubrication or hydrodynamic lubrication. Next, thin film lubrication is also called as boundary film lubrication. Look into the thick film or fluid film lubrication. What is thick film or thin film lubrication means? First understand the diagram. If you understand the diagram, you can understand the concept. So here we should consider this is the first one part of the one metallic part of the machinery. It is another part of the machinery. Whenever there is a formation of a film, that means whenever we apply the lubricants in between two metallic parts of the machinery, if that lubricants form a layer of or a film of thickness more than 100 angstrom units or 1000 angstrom units, that is called as thick film lubrication. Clear? Thick film lubrication is the lubrication which will forms a lubricant which can forms the layer of thickness 1000 angstrom unit, that is called as thick film lubrication. Okay, thick film lubrication is also called as fluid film lubrication. Look into the definition of thick film lubrication. The lubrication in which sliding surfaces remain separated from each other by a thick film of at least 1000 angstrom units thickness is known as thick film lubrication. Just now I explained. Whenever we consider these are the two metallic parts of the machinery, in between two metallic parts of the machinery, to reduce the frictional resistant force, we need to apply the lubricant. So here it is a lubricant. Whenever we apply the lubricant in between two metallic parts, if that lubricant can form one film or layer which is having 1000 angstrom thickness, that type of lubrication, this whole process is called as what? Thick film lubrication. We know the meaning of thick. So here thickness is how much? 1000 angstroms. If the thickness is 1000 angstroms, that is called as thick film lubrication. Next, look into some other important points related to this. This lubricating film prevent direct contact to reduce the, that means it will reduce the, whenever two metallic parts are separated by 1000 angstroms, obviously it will avoid the direct contact of the metallic parts or sliding parts of the machinery. Whenever it avoid the direct contact, obviously it will reduce the friction. Next, this lubrication ultimately reduces the friction. Just now I explained. Here, friction depends upon the viscosity and thickness of the lubricant. The coefficient of friction in this case is low as 0.001 to 0.003 mu. So here friction is very less. Why friction is very less means here lubricants are separated by 1000 angstrom units. Okay, separated by a film of 1000 angstrom units. That is why this lubrication is thick film lubrication. This is about thick film lubrication. Now we need to look into the other name of this. Why thick film is all called as fluid film means in this type of lubrication we can use the lubricants which are in liquid state. So this is about thick film lubrication. Next, thin film lubrication or boundary film lubrication. In this type of thin film or boundary film lubrication, we can use solid lubricants. Okay, solid lubricants, greases or blended oils. At the time of classification of lubricants, we discussed about greases and blended oils. So these type of greases and blended oils and solid lubricants we can use. That means we can observe. They can form thin film. What is thin film means? Here look into the diagram, observe the diagram. These are the metallic parts of the machinery or sliding surfaces. In between two sliding surfaces, whenever we apply the lubricant, if that lubricant form a film of or layer of thickness 1000 angstrom, that is called as, which is less than thick film. Observe here, thick film 1000 angstroms, here 100 angstroms. Thickness is reduces. Whenever two metallic surfaces are separated by the thickness of 1000 angstrom, that is called as thick film. 100 angstroms, that is called as, that means less than 1000 angstrom, that is considered as thin film. Thin film is called as boundary film. Why it is called as boundary film means, observe the, due to the usage of lubricants. Which type of lubricants we are using? Solid lubricants, greases or blended oils. Whenever we apply these solid lubricants, greases or blended oils, that will form one type of boundary layer. That means they can form one boundary on the surface of the metallic parts, which will separate the, that means which helps to avoid the direct contact of the metallic parts of the machinery. Here we can use example, mineral oils blended with fatty acids, graphite, molybdenum disulfide. So these all are example for what? Graphite and molybdenum disulfide are example for solid lubricants. Just now we discussed solid lubricants can form thin film. Improves the oiliness of the lubricants of thin layer is observed on the metallic surfaces, which avoid the direct metal to metal contacts. These are all points just now I explained. So this is in the form of notes. Next, the load is carried by the observed lubricant on both the metallic surfaces. So here lubricants in which type of conditions also very important. In which type of conditions this thin film form, in which type of conditions this thick film form means, here the metallic parts, the machineries which are working at high speed. You should note down this point. It is very important. It is considered as a key point of the thick film lubrication or thin film lubrication. So here the metallic parts are metallic surfaces which are working at high speed and load applied on that machinery is low load. So whenever the metallic parts which are working at high speed and load applied on the machinery is low or light load applied on the machinery. So that type of machineries we observe this type of thick film lubrication. Example for this type is sewing machines, stitching machines. Okay, stitching machines, at the same time calculators, wall clocks. Whenever we observe the wall clock, the dials are moving very fast. Load applied on that machinery is very light. So that are the very very most important examples for thick film lubrication. So it is considered as key point. Here what are the key points means definition is key point, which type of lubricants we are using, that is key point, diagram is very very important. Next, these point, the machineries which are working at high speed and load applied on that machinery is very light or low. Next, thin film. Which type of that means in which type of conditions we observe thin film or boundary film means completely opposite to that. So here load applied on that machinery is heavy load. The machineries which are working on heavy load and speed at low speed. Okay, low speed. Why we are using solid lubricants means if we apply liquid lubricants in this condition, here machinery is working at the load applied on that machinery is heavy, so it will undergo evaporation very easily. To bear that situation, we are using solid lubricants or blended oils at the same time, as well as we are using greases. So which will satisfy that condition, the type of lubricants we have to choose. So here this thin film lubrication is done, or we can observe the machineries which are working at low speed and load applied on that machinery is very high. So these are the key points, and one more important key point is example. So here sewing machineries, calculators, wall clocks, etc. These all are example for thick film lubrication. Next, thin film lubrication examples are turbines, water pumps, films in pumps, turbines, bearings, cutting tools, etc. These all are example for what? Thin film lubrication. And one more important point, friction. Coefficient of friction. Observe here, in thick film lubrication, coefficient of friction is very very less. 0.0012 to 0.003. This is for thick film. Here thin film 0.05 to 0.15, which is more than thick film. In thin film, friction coefficient is high compared to thick film. Okay, these are the key points. First one definition. First one is definition. Second one is diagram. Third one is which type of lubricants we are using. Third one is in which type of machinery. Fourth one is in which type of machineries this type of film formation. Fifth one is example. Sixth one is friction coefficient. These are the key points for that. Next, last type of lubrication is extreme pressure lubrication. First, understand the name of the lubrication. Each and every type of lubrication, first you need to understand. How you can remember? You just think about that. Thick film means thickness is 1000 angstrom. Thin film means thickness is 100 angstroms. Extreme pressure means, why extreme pressure? So the machineries which are working at high pressure, temperature and load applied on that machinery is high. Observe here, first condition is high speed and lightweight. Next one, heavy load and low speed. But here the machineries which are working at high pressure, high temperature, high speed, load applied on that machinery is heavy load is applied on that machinery. If we use single lubricant, that means either solid or liquid lubricant, it will not satisfy the condition. We need to add extra content, that means extra additives we need to add. The type of additives are called as extreme pressure additives. The additives which will bear the high pressure, the type of additives are called as extreme pressure additives. These extreme pressure additives are adding during lubrication. That is why this lubrication is called as what? Extreme pressure lubrication. Look into the notes. By that you can understand very easily. What is the notes? When moving surfaces remain under very pressure, it lead to a rise in temperature. So here temperature and pressure are high, where liquid lubricants may decompose or evaporate easily. To meet these extreme pressure conditions, just now I explained, blended oils are used. The additives for blending are known as extreme pressure additives. What are the example for extreme pressure additives are chlorinated esters, sulfurized oils, tricrysyl phosphates. These all are the extreme pressure additives. In this type of lubrication, key point is this one. Chlorinated esters. What are the extreme pressure additives? Chlorinated esters, sulfurized oils, triglycerol phosphates. What is the purpose of these additives? Means whenever we add these additives to lubricant oil, they can form. That means the metallic parts of the machinery which are present, which are working at high temperature and pressure. Whenever we add these additives along with the lubricants, they can form one type of durable films. Observe here, in first one, chlorinated, chlorine is there. Next, sulfurized oil, sulfur is there. Triglycerol phosphates are there. So the ions, chloride ions, sulfide ions, phosphate ions, they can form, they can react with metal and they can form one type of durable film of chloride, phosphate and sulfide layers. Capable, they can, by the formation of films which are capable of withstanding high load, temperature and pressure. Just now I explained. So the metallic parts which are working at high temperature, pressure, heavy load and high speed, to satisfy that conditions, we need to add some extreme additives to the lubricants. So here extreme pressure additives, extreme pressure lubrication do not actually reduce the friction but prevent the welding between the surfaces. So this is about extreme pressure lubrication. This video length is high, that means too much length is there. Duration is video duration is more than remaining videos of me. But here topic is very important. Mechanism of lubrication, thick film lubrication, thin film lubrication, extreme pressure lubrication, very important for external examination.